The vast convocation hall hung suspended in the void, a colossal ring of shimmering metal and glass orbiting the gas giant Tanix 9. Inside, species from every corner of the galaxy assembled, their forms diverse beyond imagining, tentacles and scales, bioluminescent skin, levitating bodies, and armored exoskeletons. The air thrummed with unspoken rivalries and the weight of ancient grudges. Every species fought for influence, for power, for survival. But tonight, all eyes rested on one quiet anomaly: humanity. They arrived late. The human delegation floated into the hall, flanked by stoic security officers clad in dark uniforms with no insignia. Unlike the other delegations, no exotic adornments marked their presence, no towering war machines or flags waving in defiance. They moved with a calm assurance, faces unreadable, steps measured. And then they did something unexpected. Instead of taking the seats reserved for newcomers at the front, they walked calmly past rows of dignitaries, some sneering, some curious, and took their place in the very last row, at the farthest end of the great chamber. The humans sat in silence, their posture relaxed but alert, as if their position was a matter of choice, not humility. A low murmur rippled through the hall. "Why do they always sit in the back?" whispered a tall insectoid delegate to her companion, her multifaceted eyes narrowing. "They have nothing to prove. If anything, they should take the front." The companion, a broad-shouldered reptilian creature with mottled scales, shrugged. "Perhaps they are modest. Or scared." Neither was true. Across the hall, a panel of elder diplomats monitored the proceedings. The Solvani ambassador, a lithe figure with translucent fins, observed the humans with a mix of fascination and caution. His gaze lingered on their leader, a woman in her late 50s, whose eyes held a cold fire beneath calmness. A booming voice shattered the whispers. "Esteemed delegates," intoned the convocation's chair, a towering figure garbed in ceremonial robes woven from star metal threads. "We convene at a perilous time. From the outer rim, the Krelith swarm advances, an ancient predator thought lost to the void. Our borders falter, our defenses strain. It is our solemn duty to forge unity or face oblivion." Gasps and cries of alarm echoed. The Krelith. Legend spoke of them as galactic annihilators, swarm creatures that consumed entire star systems. They had been defeated centuries ago, yet never fully destroyed. And now, they returned. The chair's gaze shifted to the humans. "And we welcome our newest members, the humans of Terra. You have proven yourselves in ways few understand, yet you choose silence and distance. Why?" The human leader stood slowly, the room stilling instantly. Her voice was steady but firm. "We sit in the back because we have learned that power is not always best shown by standing forward. We observe, we listen, and when the time comes, we act decisively." A ripple of unease passed through the delegates. To some, this was arrogance. To others, an ominous promise. Suddenly, the hall's communications grid flickered. A chilling broadcast crackled over every channel, an uninvited message filled with the raw, primal roar of the Krelith. "You gather like sheep in the lion's den. We see you, humans. We remember you. Your time will come." The broadcast ended with a sinister silence. A murmur rose among the delegates. "An outright threat," hissed a member of the Vosk contingent, his many eyes glowing red with rage. "Why target Earth? Why provoke the humans?" The Solvani ambassador stepped forward, raising his hand for silence. "The Krelith know the humans better than any of us. The fact they singled them out is no coincidence." The human leader returned to her seat, her eyes flickering briefly with something unreadable. No one dared ask what she thought. Instead, the chair called for calm. "We must prepare, for war if necessary, but also for negotiation. The humans will remain with us. Let us hope their silence holds until we know what it means." As the convocation moved into heated debates, many watched the humans closely. Why did the galaxy's strongest species choose the back row? Was it restraint or a warning. Outside the hall, in the cold blackness, the Krelith swarm stirred. Massive ships shaped like living nightmares, dark and writhing with menace. The coming days would test the galaxy's mettle, and humans would prove why sitting in the back was the greatest power of all. The Solvani diplomat, Neris, stood on the observation deck overlooking the sprawling convocation hall. His fins fluttered nervously as he watched the humans seated silently at the back. His mentor's warning echoed in his mind. Do not approach them without understanding their history. Neris had grown up hearing stories whispered in the shadowed corridors of diplomacy, stories of a war so brutal it reshaped galactic politics forever. The war the elders never spoke of openly, the Rithari subjugation. He sought out his mentor, Varek, a grizzled veteran of countless convocations. Varek's body was scarred and covered in faded battle tattoos, his eyes sharp with memories. They're different, Neris, Varek said, voice low. The humans aren't just another species to be bargained with or bullied. They fought a war no one else dared face, and they ended it completely. Neris frowned. But how? No one knows the details. Exactly, which is why you must listen carefully. Varek gestured toward the holoscreen. Images flickered to life, old battle footage of terrifying creatures. The Rithari, a hive mind species not unlike the Krelith but far deadlier in close combat. They had swept through human colonies in the Outer Arm with terrifying speed, devouring everything. They destroyed worlds, but Earth stood, more than stood. It annihilated the Rithari hives. Entire star clusters were purged. Yet after victory, humanity vanished from interstellar affairs for decades. Neris swallowed hard. Why did they stop? Why retreat into silence? Varek's gaze hardened. No one knows. Some say they feared their own power. Others whisper darker theories. That humanity discovered something so terrible during the war that they chose isolation over extinction. The conversation was interrupted. By a sudden alert, the Krelith threat had escalated. Sensors detected swarms moving closer to convocation space. Later, in the dim recesses of the convocation's library, Neris pulled ancient records, desperately searching for clues. The archives were sparse, many documents sealed or destroyed. He found a faded transmission from a forgotten commander. We struck deep into Rithari heartlands. They retaliated with bioweapons, causing devastation beyond measure. Earth's response was absolute, total annihilation. No survivors, no mercy. We achieved victory, but at a cost no one fully understands. The weight of that message settled heavily on Neris. Humanity's strength came at a price, and the galaxy still paid for it. That night, as the convocation hall buzzed with frantic preparations, Neris felt compelled to understand more. He approached the human delegation quietly, careful not to startle them. The human leader, Ambassador Callan, looked up as he stepped forward. Her piercing gaze unsettled him. You wish to know why we sit in the back? She asked softly, voice calm but carrying authority. Neris nodded, struggling to find words. Your history. It terrifies many here. The Rithari War, the silence that followed. We wonder if your restraint is a warning or a prison. Kalen studied him for a moment, then gestured toward the vast window overlooking Tanix 9. We sit in the back because we choose to observe. We do not seek glory or power through noise. Our strength lies in knowing when to act and when to wait. Her words were measured but carried the weight of experience. The galaxy fears us not because we are weak, but because we are patient. Because we understand that silence can be more terrifying than a roar. Before Neris could respond, an emergency broadcast crackled through the hall. Krelith vessels had breached the outer rim defenses near the Trelawney border. Panic erupted once more. Callan's voice cut through the chaos. Prepare yourselves. This war will test us all, but know this, we do not fear the swarm, they fear us. Neris watched her return to her seat in the back row, a quiet storm contained within human form. He realized then that humanity's silence was a calculated strategy, one born from bitter experience and deep resolve, and that the galaxy had yet to see the true strength of the species who chose to sit quietly in the back. The convocation buzzed with frantic energy. Delegates from 100 species gathered in smaller groups, arguing heatedly over how best to repel the Krelith swarm now striking at their borders. Some proposed bold offensive measures, others called for desperate diplomatic overtures. But amid the clamor, the humans remained an unshakable island of quiet. Neris stood near the human delegation again, his curiosity growing by the hour. The humans had not revealed a single weapon, nor offered military aid. Their silence grated on the nerves of many, especially the Vosk, who were renowned for their brutal, no-nonsense approach to war. "Why do they refuse to show their strength?" hissed a Vosk general, his chitinous hands tapping rhythmically on the metal railing. "Are they hiding weakness, or are they confident enough to wait and strike without warning?" Neris had no answer. But a sudden call for a demonstration changed the tone of the convocation entirely. The chair's voice rang out. "The humans have so far declined to reveal their capabilities. In light of the threat we face, the convocation requests a demonstration of their power." A tense silence fell. The human leader, Ambassador Callan, rose slowly. Without a word, she lifted a small device from the table before her. A slender black cylinder no larger than a human's fist. The device was handed to a technician, who attached it to the central communication relay. Suddenly, the entire convocation hall went dark. All light flickered out, screens died, and the murmurs ceased. A breathless pause. Then, every device in the hall, comm systems, security grids, personal translators, reactivated. Except one thing remained dead: the human device. Not only that, but every external communication channel with the convocation was severed. The galaxy was cut off from their transmissions, all silent, except for the low hum of life support systems. Panic rippled through the crowd. 1,000 questions filled the air. "How did they do it?" one delegate gasped. "It's a blackout," another said, eyes wide. From the shadows near the back row, a quiet voice spoke. Ambassador Callan's calm words cut through the chaos. "We do not seek to destroy. We seek control. This device is not a weapon, it is a key, a lock we choose to engage only when necessary." The convocation's security team scrambled to find the device's origin. The human delegation remained perfectly composed. It was as if they had shown a fraction of their power, and that alone was enough to silence an entire galaxy. The Vosk's general's voice dropped to a whisper. "We fight loud, they fight silent. The silence is the weapon." Meanwhile, sensors near the outer rim detected movement. Hundreds of Krelith tendrils probing convocation space. Entire fleets mobilized, but the humans made no move to join. Neris found himself watching the human leader again, searching her face for clues. What was behind their quiet power? Why would such a formidable species refuse to openly wield their strength when so much was at stake? Later, in the solitude of his quarters, Neris reviewed intercepted Terran transmissions obtained through back channels. The messages were encrypted but revealed one thing clearly. Humanity's technology was unlike any other. Their stealth systems rendered ships invisible to all known detection methods. Their weaponry was surgical, precise, and utterly devastating. More unsettling was the hint of a deeper network, a silent web of sensors and drones watching from the shadows, ready to strike without warning. Across the galaxy, the other species were scrambling to keep pace while humans seemed to hold back, watching. That night, Neris dreamt of black voids filled with shimmering eyes, fleets moving like shadows, ships that appeared and vanished with no trace. He awoke with a shiver, wondering if the human silence was a form of war itself. The next day, as the convocation reconvened, the chair issued a grim reminder. "The Krelith swarm grows bolder. Our alliances must hold. Our weapons must hold. And our resolve must not waver." But beneath the surface, the question hung heavy in every mind. What are the humans truly waiting for? And when they finally decide to stand, will the galaxy be ready? The Krelith swarmed. What had been whispered threats became thunderous reality as entire star systems fell under relentless assault. The outer rim, once a buffer between civilized space and the unknown, was consumed in flames and chaos. The Trelawney, homeworld, famed for its crystalline cities and ancient wisdom, went dark overnight. A billion lives snuffed out in the blink of an eye. Orbital defense platforms, some boasting the galaxy's most advanced weaponry, were shredded with horrifying efficiency. In the convocation hall, panic gripped the assembly like a vice. How can they be so effective? Demanded a Vosk general, his voice raw with frustration. Our fleets outnumber them 5-1. Our weapons should devastate, yet they break through every line. Nerys felt the weight of dread settle in his chest as he scanned the hollow feed of burning worlds. The Krelith were not just attackers. They were predators, swift, ruthless, and terrifyingly coordinated. Amid the turmoil, a curious pattern emerged. Though most species scrambled to fortify and strike back, the human delegation remained still. They did not send fleets to battle, nor did they issue commands. Their faces were unreadable, their posture calm. It was as if they were waiting for something no one else could see. That something revealed itself quietly, in the dark void above a dying planet. A single Terran stealth frigate slipped into orbit, undetected by all but the most advanced sensors. It moved like a ghost among the wreckage, silent, precise. Inside its bays were hundreds of rescued survivors from the fallen world, plucked from the rubble just before extinction. The frigate's captain, a young officer named Sora, watched the burning horizon with a grim determination. "Evacuate everyone we can," she ordered the crew, no one left behind. When the frigate slipped away, a relay broadcast to the convocation revealed nothing. No messages, no declarations, just action. Back in the hall, whispers grew louder. "Why do they not fight openly?" a Trelawney ambassador demanded. "Why send a single ship to rescue survivors but withhold aid from the rest?" Varric, the old veteran, spoke quietly to Nerys. "The humans fight differently. They are not reckless. They do not throw lives away in grand gestures. They wait for the right moment to strike with devastating effect." That moment was coming. Across the galaxy, the Krelith pressed forward, their tendrils grasping for worlds to consume. Panic spread, alliances cracked, and despair grew. In the convocation strategy chambers, a heated debate erupted. "We must force the humans to commit," shouted a Vosk admiral. "Their silence endangers us all." The Solvani ambassador shook his head. "You do not understand. Their silence is not weakness, it is restraint. They wait because they know something we do not." Nerys could not shake the growing sense of foreboding. That night, as alarms blared and worlds burned, he found himself staring at the stars, wondering when the quiet watchers would finally rise. Back in the shadows, the human fleet stirred. Ancient ships, long thought museum relics, powered up in hidden docks. Their engines hummed with a cold, steady power. No grand announcements, no fanfare, just readiness. As the Krelith continued their assault, the galaxy's strongest species faced a terrible question. Had humanity's silence been a warning all along, or a promise? The air in the convocation hall was thick with urgency. The Krelith swarm had advanced deeper than anyone had predicted, ripping through border defenses and threatening core worlds. Panic was a poison spreading fast through every delegate's veins. The once unified front was beginning to fracture under pressure. Amid the chaos, a somber tradition was invoked, one spoken of only in hushed tones: the Black Accord. The chair's voice echoed through the hall, steady and grave. "In times of existential crisis, the convocation may call upon the Black Accord, an ancient pact forged in shadow and secrecy. It grants Earth the right to intervene with full force, unrestricted." The room fell silent. Many eyes turned toward the humans seated at the back, their expressions unreadable. Nerys remembered Varric's words. The Black Accord is the last measure. Its activation signals the galaxy's doom or salvation. A human delegate, a tall man with sharp features and eyes, like steel, rose and spoke. "Directive Black is activated. The humans will intervene. A ripple of shock swept the assembly. For decades, the Black Accord had been a myth, a relic of a darker time when humanity alone held the power to end galactic conflicts with decisive finality. Its existence was known only to a few, and its invocation was tantamount to declaring war with absolute authority. Suddenly, distant star systems flickered with strange lights. Ancient Terran warships thought to be museum pieces or legends powered up across the galaxy. Their hulls gleamed coldly against the blackness of space, engines humming with renewed life. Nerys felt a chill. These ships were unlike anything in the Convocation fleet, sleek, silent, and deadly. Ambassador Callan rose again, her voice calm but commanding. The Black Accord is not a threat. It is a promise that humanity will act when the galaxy's survival is at stake. The Krelith, sensing the shift, began to pull back their tendrils from vulnerable outposts, but it was too late. Reports came in from multiple fronts. Entire Krelith colonies were being dismantled with surgical precision. No grand battles, no prolonged sieges, just sudden, silent strikes that left devastation in their wake. Nerys watched in awe as the black warships executed maneuvers no one else could predict or counter. They moved like shadows, appearing and disappearing without warning. The galaxy held its breath. Behind the scenes, intelligence reports hinted at a terrifying truth. Humans had developed a covert network, drones, stealth ships, and sensors, spanning the most dangerous sectors. This network, known only as the Silent Storm, was the real weapon of humanity's wrath. The Krelith Queen, isolated and desperate, broadcast a chilling message just before her forces collapsed. "You will pay for this, humans. We will return." The message left no room for doubt. The Krelith were beaten but not broken. Back in the Convocation Hall, tensions shifted. Some species cheered humanity's decisive intervention. Others watched with wary eyes, uneasy at the raw power now unleashed. Varric leaned close to Nerys. "They've awakened the sleeping giant, but with great power comes great cost." Nerys nodded slowly, understanding at last the true meaning of humanity's seat at the back. Not humility, but restraint. The humans held their strength like a blade in the sheath, drawing it only when the world burned. The Black Accord was not just a pact. It was a warning, and humanity had answered. The galaxy had never seen war fought like this. The Krelith swarm, once a relentless tide consuming stars, was now met with silence and shadows. In the dark reaches of space, where the Convocation's fleets could barely detect movement, humanity's Silent Storm waged its unseen war. Nerys stood aboard the observation deck of the Convocation's flagship, eyes glued to the tactical displays flickering with data. Ghost signals, fleeting, nearly imperceptible, danced across the screens, betraying the presence of stealth drones and silent strike crafts. "These shadows," Nerys murmured. "They strike before the enemy even knows they are there." His voice barely carried over the hum of the command bridge. Ambassador Callan stood nearby, her gaze as steady as ever. "We fight with what the Krelith do not expect. Their strength is overwhelming but predictable. They swarm, they consume. We do not meet their storm with fire but with silence." The Silent Storm was a network of autonomous vessels and drones, each equipped with advanced cloaking technology, electronic warfare systems, and precision weaponry. They operated independently, coordinated by an AI core that learned and adapted faster than any known intelligence. Where the Convocation's fleets were loud and proud, the humans embraced stealth and precision. Entire Krelith hive ships vanished in moments, victims of surgical strikes that left no survivors. Nerys could not help but feel a growing respect and fear for the species that wielded such power so quietly. Back on Terra, the architects of the Silent Storm watched the battle unfold through a million sensors scattered across the galaxy. Their operation was the culmination of centuries of research and sacrifice, a legacy written in blood and silence. Sora, the young Terran captain, led one such drone fleet deep behind enemy lines. Her ship, sleek and unassuming, became a ghost among the Krelith tendrils. "Deploy silent disruptors," she commanded softly. Disable communications, target propulsion arrays. Her voice held the calm certainty of someone who had done this before. Each mission was a precise strike in a larger war, a war fought in shadows. The Krelith's reaction was swift but chaotic. Without communication and coordination, their swarms became disorganized. Confusion spread through their ranks like wildfire. The convocation hall, some species clamored for open war, battles with guns blazing, fleets clashing in spectacle. But the humans knew better. They fought a war of attrition, a quiet extermination that wore the enemy down slowly but surely. Yet the cost weighed heavily. Reports filtered in of human units lost in the darkness, never recovered. Silent sacrifices that only the humans mourned. In private, Nerys approached Ambassador Callan during a brief recess. "Why do you fight like this?" he asked quietly. "Why embrace silence over valor?" Callan's eyes flickered with a shadow of sorrow. "Because loud wars leave scars that never heal. Because we know what happens when the fight becomes a roar. The galaxy must survive, not just today, but for generations." Her words lingered in Nerys's mind long after the meeting ended. As the silent storm continued its deadly ballet, the galaxy learned a hard truth. The humans' greatest weapon was their patience, their restraint, and the devastating quiet with which they struck. And though many feared the power they wielded, none could deny that the galaxy might never have survived without it. But in the cold depths of space, far from the convocation's eyes, new threats stirred. The Krelith Queen's promise echoed in the void. "We will return." The Krelith's promise echoed across the void, a chilling reminder that their defeat was far from final. Despite the silent storm's relentless precision, the Queen's hive mind had begun to evolve. She learned, adapted, became something darker, more insidious. Reports arrived with increasing urgency. New Krelith variants were emerging, creatures faster, more cunning, equipped with shields that resisted even human stealth disruptors. The convocation's anxiety turned to dread. The Krelith were no longer just a swarm. They were becoming a true reckoning. In the shadowed command chambers aboard the human flagship Erebus, Ambassador Callan stood over a holomap showing the shifting battlefront. Beside her, Captain Sora briefed the fleet commanders. "We've underestimated their capacity to evolve," Callan said, voice tight. "They are adapting to the silent storm. Our current tactics won't hold." Sora nodded grimly. "We need to hit them harder and faster. No more shadow strikes alone. It's time to bring the storm to light." For years, humanity had fought quietly, patiently, watching and waiting. Now the moment had come to unleash their full might. Back on the convocation flagship, Nerys received a secure transmission. It was from Varric, the veteran who had taken command of a coalition fleet. "We're preparing a joint strike," Varric said. "Humans will lead. This will be the biggest engagement of the war." The galaxy held its breath. The target was the Krelith's newly discovered hive world, a planet shrouded in toxic storms and guarded by layers of deadly creatures. The human fleet moved into position, vessels gleaming in the dim light of a distant sun. The Erebus led the charge, flanked by Terran battlecruisers and a coalition fleet bristling with every known weapon. When the order came, silence shattered into a crescendo of destruction. Missiles streaked through the atmosphere, plasma blasts tore through alien armor, and fleets clashed in deadly dances above the hive's surface. The Krelith fought ferociously, their new variants swarming human and allied ships alike. The battle was brutal, the losses staggering. Yet amid the chaos, the humans showed their true strength. Advanced AI systems coordinated every strike with near-perfect efficiency. Boarding teams deployed silently to disable enemy command centers. Adaptive drones overwhelmed Krelith defenses with overwhelming numbers and precision. Nerys watched from the bridge as the hive's core began to collapse. "This is not just a battle," Callan's voice came over the comm. "It is a reckoning. For every world lost, for every life taken, we will answer." The hive world exploded in a shower of fire and debris, a beacon of hope for the convocation, but a signal that the war was far from over. Yet victory came at a cost. The Erebus took a critical hit, systems failing, alarms blaring. Captain Sora coordinated damage control with calm resolve. "We will survive," she vowed. As the fleet retreated, Neris felt a shift in the tide of war. The humans had awakened fully, their silence replaced by a storm that promised to reshape the galaxy. But the Krelith Queen, wounded but unbroken, retreated into the darkness, her vengeance far from spent. The galaxy held its breath in the aftermath of the reckoning tide. Though the Krelith hive world lay in ruin, the Queen's shadow lingered like a dark storm on the horizon. The war was far from over. In the convocation hall, the mood had shifted. Respect for humanity was no longer whispered but spoken openly. The species that once sat quietly in the back had risen, not with boastful fanfare but with calculated resolve. Neris stood beside Ambassador Callan as the assembly gathered. The chair's voice resonated through the chamber. "Today, we bear witness to a new chapter. The war continues, but so too does hope. Humanity's strength and wisdom have saved us." Callan nodded, her eyes scanning the gathered delegates. "We do not seek power for glory," she said, voice steady. "Our strength comes from restraint, from patience. We sit in the back because we choose to see the whole board, to understand every move before we act." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "We fight not because we want to be heard, but because silence can carry the loudest message." Neris felt a profound shift within himself. The galaxy's strongest species did not roar. They whispered in silence, and when that silence was broken, it was a storm that reshaped worlds. Back on the Erebus, Captain Sora reviewed reports from the field. The silent storm had crippled the Krelith's ability to wage large-scale war, but the Queen remained elusive. The fight had become a war of attrition, a battle of patience and will. "We must be ready," Sora told her crew. "This war will last longer than any of us expect." Her words were a quiet promise, a legacy born from the ashes of countless fallen worlds. In the months that followed, humanity's quiet strength became the bedrock of the Convocation's new strategy. No longer relegated to the back, humans took their place as guardians of the galaxy's fragile peace. Neris reflected on what he had learned, the power of patience, the courage in silence, and the strength that comes not from dominance, but from knowing when to wait. As the Krelith swarms diminished into scattered remnants, the galaxy began to rebuild, stronger, wiser, and the humans? They returned to their seat at the back, watching, waiting, ready for whatever darkness might come next. Because the galaxy's strongest species knew one truth above all. Sometimes the greatest power lies not in sitting at the front, but in sitting quietly at the back and waiting.